no matter what is going to happen, it seems highly unlikely that we're going to get anything but another continuing resolution, which will simply punt this issue down the road, and frankly, not that far down the road. Whether it's going to be a 1 month continuing resolution, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, we don't know. And we'll talk more about this as the show progresses. We don't know whether or not we're going to see some type of permanent chip authorization long term, or whether we will see some type of statutory fix in regards to DACA. These, of course, are basically the adults who were brought to this country, and maybe younger than adults, who were brought to this country as children, who have either graduated high school or have served in the military and have stayed out of any type of legal trouble and are basically Americans in all but their paperwork. And we're talking about 800,000 of them, and hopefully they will get some type of relief from one can only imagine the ongoing agony and just sort of drama and trauma, frankly, that they have been experiencing. But before we get to that stuff, let's go back the story is more than just a week old. But you have a piece in Salon this week entitled "Lindsey Graham Thought He Had Trump Tamed, but He Got Played Instead." And, I think if people went back like 3 or 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, a couple of months ago, and all of a sudden Lindsey Graham, who had been, I think there was even like a moment where Lindsey Graham had said, you can call Donald Trump crazy, but I would never say that. And then somebody actually played him, I think it was Jake Tapper, played him a clip of him saying Donald Trump is crazy during the election. But Graham had sort of shifted strategies, hadn't he?
Yes, he had, and it was causing a lot of people going, what is going on with him? Because, he had been one of the more vociferous critics of Trump during the election. He ran against him in the primary. He was there, and they had a personal kind of confrontation. You remember Trump put his personal phone number out into the public, and, there was bad blood between them. And Graham, who, to my way of thinking, and I imagine yours as well, he's the worst phony in the world, right? He's got this lugubrious speaking style, and he's presented himself as the independent maverick who, kind of speaks truth to power and blah, blah, blah. He's John McCain's best friend. So, he had cultivated this image, and he had carried that through in the first months of the Trump administration, kind of, criticizing him from the floor. He was toning it down a little bit, but nonetheless, he was still, being a Republican critic to the extent any of them are in the Congress. And all of a sudden, in August, he completely shifted gears. And he's playing golf with the president. He's patting him on the back. He's talking about how great he is. He's complimenting him, saying he's a great deal maker, on and on and on. And everybody's going, what in the world happened? And there was talk, Trump must have blackmail material. There must be something on him. This makes no sense. Well,
I heard people say he wants to be Secretary of State.
Right.
I think he
was angling for some kind of, job in the Trump administration. And I never thought that was true. To me, what seemed obvious was that Graham had decided somewhere along the line that he was smart enough to be able to manipulate Trump into becoming a mainstream Republican president, that he could do that he had the capacity. And this is kind of how Graham is. He thinks he's very, very clever. He thinks he's really can maneuver. He's very savvy. He's cunning. He can do all this stuff. So when I saw him do this...
And I should just add, to reinforce that point, this is a guy who thought he was coming in to save the day with an Affordable Care Act repeal bill, with virtually it seemed like he had no knowledge of the underlying policies of healthcare. Seemed like he had barely read into it. He's been in the Senate for probably well over a decade, and was in the House prior to that. This is a guy who who really didn't know much about this, but thought that he was going to save the day and that he could just sort of wing it. And it turned into a bit of a disaster. But go ahead. I just wanted to.
Well, that's a perfect example of his, very special kind of hubris. He really thinks highly of himself. And when I saw this shift, which happened before that, where he started, becoming a real defender of Trump and going out and saying, he's a good guy and he's talented and he's intelligent and blah, blah, blah. I'm going, okay, I see what he's up to. He thinks that he is going to be able to take charge of Trump and guide him into being a normal president, that he's going to be able to get this done. And he's recognized, as many courtiers in history have recognized, that you need to flatter the king and you have to kiss his ring and you've got to give him what he wants and you've got to throw him some red meat, which he did with the recent ridiculous referral to the Justice Department on Christopher Steele, the author of the notorious dossier. All of that is red meat to prove to Trump, his loyalty, et cetera, et cetera. Well, immigration is one of Graham's issues. It's one he really does know about and he cares about. It is one of his signature issues, and he has actually been a bit of a maverick in the Republican caucus, in that he sort of takes seriously the idea that you have to have some kind of a big, broad compromise on this issue in order for it to work, in order to be able to accomplish what it is that they need to accomplish to, at least solve the issue for some foreseeable period of time. So he comes into this issue with DACA, and I don't know if he had this planned in his head that, he was laying out some kind of a long-term strategy to get next to Trump in order to solve DACA or immigration, but it is one of his issues, and I think he felt he had serious credibility with everybody on the issue. And so he's big pals with Trump, and he's his defender. They go into this meeting, which was a week ago Tuesday, where they televised the whole stupid thing, and everybody's, oh, look, there's Trump, the deal maker. And part of that was Graham, who's saying, look how great he is. He just really commanded the room, et cetera, et cetera. And Trump made a bunch of promises there. He said, hey, bring me something. I will sign it. Yes, we want DACA first, and then we'll do a second step where we approach comprehensive immigration reform. He was very polite and cordial to the Democrats in the room, on and on. And so those people, the people who have been, and by the way, Graham, Durbin, and others, I think Cory Gardner, a number of others in the Senate have been working on a DACA compromise for months. They leave that meeting saying, okay, Graham assures everybody, look, I've got Trump. He's my bud. We've been golfing. He's going to do it. I swear to God, he's a good guy. We're going to get this done. They leave. They formalize some kind of a deal over the course of 2 days. On Thursday, a week ago, last Thursday, they come up with a deal. And Durbin, who Trump says to Durbin in the previous meeting, he had said, hey, call me anytime, keep me up to date. Right. Durbin calls up Trump, says, hey, we got a deal. Trump says, that's wonderful. This is terrific. Gives him a big thumbs up. They call up Graham. Trump says, you and Graham come up to the White House at noon, and let's just go over this thing.
Digby, let's leave the story right there because we got to take a quick break. And because that's the setup. And when we come back, we'll give you the punch.